Thanks very much, Desiree. Well, of course, as you know, we don't have the usual hustle and bustle that we used to have last year, for example, because of the COVID-19 regulations. So we are managing to speak to mainly the politicians from various parties. I'm joined now by Walter Wessels. He's from the Freedom Front Plus, just to get his thoughts on what we can anticipate from the budget and what he thinks should be done. Thank you very much, Walter, for joining us.
Thanks.
Now, one of the issues, of course, is the issue of tax. We did hear from the Finance Minister last year that over the next 4 years, government is hoping to raise some 40 billion rand in revenue. We know that many in the economy are under stress, and the big question is, where would they be able to get the tax from? What are your thoughts about how government should be proceeding with the whole issue of tax?
What we need is economic growth, and if this budget will only in the short term aim to increase revenue, we will not obtain economic growth. The biggest mistake that the minister can make today is to increase tax in any way, even if it's just a percentage point, even if it's VAT in any way. An increase now will not stimulate economic growth. We need to increase spending by the private sector, by private individuals, to get the economy going. And that cannot be done by increasing tax. In the long run, revenue will increase if there's economic growth. And then we also, in the short term, need fiscal consolidation. We need cost containment of government expenditure. They can't be spending on any luxuries, and obviously no spending on state-owned entities.
But of course, government has made moves. You know, they've announced that they're going to be cutting the public sector wage bill, although everybody is worried about whether they'll actually be able to execute on that, given the fact that there's still legal contention over their decision not to pay the 2020 public sector wage increase. But also, you know, they have been trying to cut here and there. They're talking about 300 billion rands of cuts over the medium term. And at the end of the day, tax is part of a function of an economy.
Tax is part of a function, but you won't be able to actually increase tax sustainably. Remember, if you increase corporate tax now, or if there's any form of wealth tax now, or if that increases, people will stop spending money, businesses will close, unemployment will increase, and that will in the long run mean that tax revenue will actually decrease. So in the short term, you might now raise more revenue, but in the long term, we won't get the ship that is currently sinking, because we must be honest with each other. South Africa is sinking currently. We are literally over the fiscal cliff. We are in big trouble, and we now need innovation. We can't just in the short term say, let's install wealth tax, let's install an increase on VAT, let's install personal income tax increases or corporate tax increases. In the long term, that will not stimulate businesses employing people, businesses starting to operate again. We've had a very, very detrimental time and detrimental effect of what happened last year. But even before that, we are in economic recession, and we now need, you see, what must be prioritized is service delivery, because no business will invest if there's no service delivery, if there's no infrastructure spending. So that must be prioritized, and by doing that, you'll get increase in revenue and we'll be able to cover our costs.
Yeah. Walter, what do you see as the low-hanging fruit? Because, you know, a lot of the things that you're talking about, investment and so on, these are kind of long-term projects, but surely there's got to be low-hanging fruit where we perhaps by this time next year, if you and I were to talk, we could see some turnaround in some of the areas of the economy.
You see, firstly, fiscal consolidation is very important. Structural reforms are important, and certain structural reforms can be done in the short term and with immediate effect. There's certain things that should be done. The president referred to it's very easy opening a business or starting a business. That's not true. Ask people on the ground how difficult it is to get a license from a municipality, to get a vehicle license at the moment. All those type of things that's needed to operate a business. Yeah. We need reforms in that way, and that's easy stuff to do, and that will stimulate the economy. And then the wage bill is a crisis, and that must be addressed, but it can't be addressed by not filling critical vacancies, because that is what government does. They don't fill critical vacancies, they still give wage increases, they still have non-critical functions in government departments, especially in ministries, with people earning huge salaries which do not contribute to service delivery. Cut those posts, but focus on employing engineers, employing critical people that deliver services to the people of South Africa.
Speaking earlier to the DA, they were saying something similar, saying that people who are on the ground, who are sort of people-facing, should continue to get CPI-related increases, while looking at those that you said, for example, who are in the offices, who perhaps don't necessarily give as much value as one would hope, perhaps trying to, to cut people there. Would that sort of be your approach as well?
That would. You see what happens currently, and what a lot of people don't realize, in all the ministries, and we have a lot of departments, even if we have less than we had before. In all those ministries, people are appointed in political positions, and then that is contracts that are related to the minister's position. But then they are permanently appointed in the department, that they have no skills in that particular department. So now you have people on DDG levels sitting in departments not contributing to service delivery at all because they aren't skilled in that department. They came out of a political office. That is the things that should be looked at. Luxury should be cut. We're spending money on things that we can't afford at this stage. Let's take name changes now in the Eastern Cape. People are hungry currently. People are unemployed. They can't eat a name. That is not priority currently, and yet they change names that are costing millions of rands. Those are the type of things that the minister should today take a stance on and say, stop spending money on unnecessary things. We need to prioritize. We need spending on infrastructure. We need service delivery, and we need to stimulate the economy.
One of the things that your leader often talks about is the whole issue of black economic empowerment that is proven ineffective and is enriched but a few black people and so on and so forth. But of course the philosophical argument behind it is because there's a need to redress the past where people of a certain color and so on did not get the kind of education, access, spatial access and so on, and that needs to be brought forward, and if there isn't an intervention then it can't happen. Is Freedom Front Plus still of the view that indeed BEE is not worth the paper that it's written on, or that it's an ideal that's difficult to achieve in the South African context given what we know about history?
The problem is that yes, redress can take place and redress should take place, but that should not be firstly related to only the color of the skin, but rather access to education, as you just mentioned. But what black economic empowerment has done is it has not empowered people that did not have opportunities. It actually took away opportunities, because look at what happens at school level, where schools are built by BEE contractors that has never built a building in his life, so that school 10 years later has not been built. It is taking away opportunities from the very people that should have opportunities and that should have access. Clinics are not being built. Things are costing more than it should cost because of black economic empowerment, and that is the pandemic of corruption. So if something fails, there should be a rethink of that, and that is where we should currently be, and we should think, is black economic empowerment actually working? It is not. Appoint people that can do the job, that can build roads that last, that can build schools and hospitals and clinics, and that can actually deliver services to the people. That is what we need.
Gota, thank you very much for your time, sir.